All right, hi, this is Team 3. We are coming together to do our peer reviews for AAPTEL Task 1. And whoever would like to start, you can go ahead and jump right in.
I can start.
Okay.
I did Candace and I did Nathaniel. I did both theirs for task one, and I'll start out with Candace. And the one thing that for the content, I said the literature review. It thoroughly covered the 5 best practices set forth in task one. Each item is described in great detail and shows great documentation about the role of the principal in the building, efficacy in the faculty. So I feel like whenever I read all 5 of your things, it came together really well. I think that they all kind of correlated together and they came together. There was a quote in there that I looked at that I saw that I liked a lot, and it says, "When like-minded individuals work together, it creates a successful school." And I think that that's really key. And whenever you're building the recruitment, and then the anything that's mentoring, and then the placement, and just making sure that kind of everybody has their place. And you talked about sometimes you can't provide all the teachers with the leadership roles that they deserve, but you kind of place those people in the positions that you think that they're going to best, where their leadership's going to kind of come out and do best for the school. I said for the strength, I said everything was well structured. I said very fact and research driven. Your prompt 2 includes great tools for assessing the teacher in the classroom and as a leadership. I said great job, because that the evaluation tool where you aligned it to the South Carolina standards, I thought that was awesome, because whenever you're anything that you're aligning and you can correlate it to standards or talk about what the Department of Education talks about, it's gonna go above and beyond, and that kind of backs that research up on how valid that tool is. For the weakness, I thought everything was pretty jam up. I said that your narrative didn't have any weaknesses. I said I might have just skipped over it. Might not have saw it, but I didn't see where you referenced your one appendix in the narrative. And it might have been because I think the one appendix was just in there, and I can't remember whether you referenced that back in the narrative or not.
Which
So
one of the scales or the checklist?
I think because wasn't there one at the end? Let me pull it up real quick. Okay. I think it was the one that was after your first grade professional. It was just your agenda.
Okay.
So I don't know. Like every time that I send something into him, that was your appendix A. Every time I send something in, he says, "Well, make sure that you reference whatever your appendix is back in the narrative." Okay. So I just skipped over it and just didn't see that. But I thought everything else was pretty jam up. I said that everything was centered around it. I said for your leadership stuff, you referenced Marzano 4 different times in your references. So the fact that he's like the leader in that, I said the fact that you referenced him 4 times was awesome. In your reference list. So just the fact that, he and Whitaker was, you were talking about that. I thought that was pretty jam up and awesome about that sort of stuff. So, and then just for the mechanical grammar stuff, you can read what I wrote down. I thought your APUA format, maybe there, I think the double spacing and just references in bold, like there was, like your heading, I think, but it was pretty nitpicky stuff that I said there. For Nathaniel, I also did Nathaniel's. I said for him, the content, I said each best practice is described in detail, and a variety of research is cited to support each of the best practices. Your narrative is definitely aligned with the content and of the task 1, and you also demonstrated the fact that you have enhanced knowledge of the 5 best practices and how they work together. I saw a lot of things working cohesively, and you referencing things cohesively, and it seemed like you were talking overlapping stuff, which was good because that kind of showed how it correlated together with everything else that way. For your strengths, I said that you talked a lot about research. I think that your efficacy and your empowerment had like 5 or 6 different references just in that section. So I thought that you did a great job with that. Your observation, I think I'm going to steal something from yours, because that evaluation tool that was the observation look fors checklist, how nice and visual that checklist was. I thought that checklist was awesome. Because a lot of times you go in and you have that checklist, and that other checklist that you had with the actual walkthrough checklist, I liked how it had the little boxes. So all you had to do is just check off as you're walking through and just looking at everybody's lesson. It was really quick, really decisive. kind of opposite of what that 4.0 rubric was that I kind of used, but it was real quick, but it was very real, and it was real kind of very specific in all the things that you could look for too, kind of really complete. So I like that. I said also the fact that it was that your empowerment survey was it was correlated to the Department of Education stuff. It's almost felt like you got your stuff from like that teacher survey stuff right there. So I thought that being correlated, that worked out really nicely there too. For weaknesses, I did say that the best practice section, it seemed to go back and forth between professional development, teacher leadership. You might want to look back over that section and just see if, because you had, I think, a couple things about professional development in that teacher efficacy. And then there was a couple things about leadership that you might want to place in the leadership section instead of the teacher efficacy section. But it correlated together. It seemed like it went back and forth, and I didn't know if it would be best suited in that section or best suited in those other sections too. You had a ton of stuff in that efficacy and empowerment section. I didn't know if you wanted to put a little bit more into another section that way too. Whenever you're talking about your recruitment and your retention and your placement of teachers, I thought that you developed your recruitment and I thought you developed your mentoring, but the reason why you place teachers where you placed them maybe need to develop that just a little bit more with how you place the teachers or why you place teachers, or just an explanation of why you place teachers in different places with that. For leadership, I thought you referenced multiple solutions based on the research, and also with that, I said that you talked about different states and how different states dealt with different things. So you talked about Mississippi and the LEAD program. You talked about South Carolina and how they did it, and then I also liked how you talked about how things used to be. Well, you talked about how this used to happen then, and now this is how it's happening now. So you talked about kind of a progression through. It used to happen this way, and now it happens now this way. So I liked how you progressed that way too. Like I said, pretty jam up whenever that was going on too. So
awesome.
Yeah, and Nathaniel, I'm in agreement with those comments. The only other thing I saw was that all you have to do is make your font the same size.
Yeah, he highlighted that.
Yeah, I made a note of that too, and I saw that whenever I pulled it off the thing, I noticed that he said that too. So
yeah,
but.
And Nathaniel, I'm just gonna piggyback because I did review yours too, and I said all of those same things. And I just wanted to say, for your strength, I found your professional development section very interesting. I like the idea of job embedded professional development. I thought that it seemed like a great idea, especially for like first year teachers or even just overwhelmed teachers working on something that's going to benefit them. But everything else that everyone said, I've said too. Oh, go ahead.
I did you, Nathaniel, as well. And I really liked your infographic as well. I thought you covered all 5 topics thoroughly. My only thing was saying the font size. Don't understand that. As far as the content, I felt like you were thorough in with your quotes and your references. I got a sense of you understanding how the teachers felt, and you expressed that in your narrative. And then on your where did you get that infographic? Because I think I'm gonna borrow that too. He was talking about that, but I love that infographic. I think it kind of is very direct, but it paints a clear picture for people to understand.
That's the look.
But I enjoyed reading your paper, and I felt like you covered all the areas nicely. Heath, I also have your paper. I'm sorry.
I'm saying that actually came from my principal.
Did it?
Okay.
Well,
okay. It's an easy.
You can tell we're visual learners. When everybody's drawing the pictures. We're like moths to a flame. Just look at the pictures. So.
Heath, I as well, and I said that you had a sufficient amount of evidence to support the stance on teacher efficacy. I felt like at the end you had a strong conclusion where you said developing the efficacy and empowerment of staff is a precursor to promoting and good decision making. And I thought that was a good way to wrap up all the content area that you covered. I thought it was professionally written, and you used great sentence structure. You were able to you demonstrate leadership by continuing to conduct your PLC meetings. I thought that your appendix, where you provided the picture, helped to us to see you facilitating as a leader. And then I felt like your paper was done in a logical and organized manner as well. So those were mine.
And to add to that, and because Heath and I, we kind of spoke offline before we start recording, in that we talked about the 4.0 rubric that's coming to South Carolina next year. And we talked about how it's pretty much in line with what you guys are doing with TAP now. And so with us, it's, well, with the school I'm at now, I'm working with, it is not really correlated to what they're doing. So I'm very interested in seeing how it's going to play out, but that's what we discussed in our PLC. So I was very interested in your paper in that regards, to see the feedback from your teachers. But like you said, you guys are already doing it. So that's great. And I have Calandra, but before I go into hers, I just wanted to say I really enjoy like really perusing all your papers, because I get a lot of different perspectives, a lot of different ideas and things that I didn't think of. Like in Calandra's paper, a very unique feature was that she went to attend a conference where she had educators and authors that she took pictures with, and also she referenced in her paper. That was Pedro and Dan Heath. And I was like, wow, I've been to several conferences. I never even thought about taking the pictures and including the information into my paper as well. So I'm glad you did that to give me those ideas. But I really like that aspect of your paper. I thought it was well written. The literature review was very clear. I'm really, okay, I don't think it was 15 references. I'm not exactly
No, it's
sure.
not. I still need to finish.
Okay, yeah. And the other comment that I had was in task 2 or prompt 2, really no narrative. It kind of, you just made reference to the figures. So just including a narrative and connecting your PLC meeting, because you provided the pictures, your agenda and all that, but you didn't really make reference to it in the paper.
Okay.
Yeah, but other than that, I enjoyed it. I thought it was great.
And I'll piggyback on Alondra, because I also looked at yours and I said a lot of the same things Tamika said. I liked how you included your professional development that you attended in your paper. And also I also talked about how maybe you needed to make sure you had 3 references for each section. I suggested that maybe you add a conclusion to the end of your literature review. You had a really good, I loved your introduction. I like to read introductions to papers. But I liked your introduction. So just make sure you include a conclusion. What else? This is just something little, but I don't know if we're supposed to have the literature review heading, to let the reader know that this is your literature review. So maybe go back and include that. And that's really it. That's it.
And you're right about that conclusion, because of some of the literature that she reviewed. I was like, I wondered how she feels about it. Like, I was like really wondering, because Calandra is normally very, detailed about everything and voicing her opinion. So I was like, I wonder how she feels about this, because some of the literature I didn't necessarily agree with, but that was the review. That's what they, these researchers were saying. And I thought some of them took an interesting perspective. But I was interested in your thoughts, personal thoughts.
Well, I'd just like to say, while we got this this space here, I did Heath and also Calandra, and I gotta say, I enjoy looking at everybody's, but I definitely enjoy looking at YouTube, because you guys kind of help me straighten it out. If I got a area that I'm a little iffy about, I always know that one of you have gotten it in on time. All right, so so it's all good. I'll take a look at it. The format for both of you, the format is great. For me, the challenge has been the this whole APA thing, and I think for some reason you all seem to have a grasp on it. So So that always, I'm always in awe of that. Excellent tools for both of you. I really enjoy the thanks Heath for that extensive graphic that you have at
Yeah,
the
yeah. I almost thought that I was going to have to wrap around and do extra double letters for those appendixes at the end.
But very helpful though, and very informative, very informative. So I mean, and well documented. So that it's really good. I mean, it's a snapshot of where we're headed. So I really appreciated that. Calandra, your effective learning environment observation tool there from Advanced Ed, well chosen. Your walkthrough, very effective. And the coverage of for both of you, the coverage of your 5 areas is very thorough and very well documented. I love your ideas, and I could echo what everyone else has said about it, but definitely good job. I haven't noted any weaknesses. Perhaps by the time I got to you all, you had been through the refining fire already. So I don't have any minuses for you. But good job.
Clinton, do you guys use that Advanced Ed, or that's just the tool you selected? I was just wondering.
We use the Advanced Ed because when we went through the STEM accreditation, we went around to every classroom and then put our notes together to score, because it's a certain way that you score, just to see as far as what the classrooms, what you're seeing overall. So that helped me to coach and to help co-teach and say, okay, let's be mindful in this area when we're in the classroom, or get ways to see our strengths and weaknesses. So we would combine all of the coaches and the administrators would combine all of their notes together, and then get a final score. And then once you look across, you can kind of see where your weaknesses are in the classrooms.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, if anyone doesn't have anything else, I guess that concludes our meeting.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.